And like if it doesn't happen to your honey overall, it basically means it's like processed or something, or like it's very low sugar content or something. So yeah, it's like unavoidable. It's just natural process that happens when it is raw and unprocessed. And if you want to turn it back into how it normally is, just dunk it into some warm water around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, let it sit there for like 20 minutes, and then it's going to turn back to normal. But a lot of like the complex like flavors, the like floral flavors in it might like get damaged during that process. So I would avoid that.
I just want to say I personally prefer crystallized honey to normal honey. I feel like it has this really cool crunchy texture that you wouldn't normally see, so it's really fun to eat.
Yeah, some people prefer crystallized, some people don't, and it's perfect. It's unavoidable. So yeah.
The crystallization is basically the same thing that happens. I don't know if you've done this experiment before, but like if you know like rock candies, it's the same process.
Thank you.
Small group size is a great thing. You can be more interactive with it. All right, we can just start with introducing yourselves.
So I'm Brian. I'm a senior at Saratoga High School.
I'm Rory. I'm an 8th grader actually at Harker Session. Where some of you guys are going to be going in maybe 1 to 2 years. And I'm also really passionate about science research, and we'll talk a bit about how that can apply to bees.
Right. I'm Andrew. I'm a junior at the Harker School. My eagle buddy, one of my eagle buddies was here for the last session. Nadia, I think, is my other eagle buddy. And I'm really sad that she's.
Oh, Nadia's here.
Oh, she's here.
Never mind. She's
Yay!
here.
Your Eagle Buddy's here presenting. How exciting is that? Okay.
She's put it on the spot. She's a little embarrassed.
Scratch that. My other eagle buddy's here. Thanks so much. I'm also really interested in bee research. I've been beekeeping for I think 2 years now, and yeah, I hope you just learn a lot about the bees and learn a lot about it.
All right. So how many of you guys like honey? Hopefully a lot of you guys. Pretty sweet.
I haven't tried real honey before. Me neither.
Hopefully you guys can like.
I've only tried imitation honey.
Well, you should get your parents to buy our honey.
Yeah.
Real honey
Try
right
it.
outside the door.
Yeah. Whoa. And also, how many of you guys have been stung by a bee? Pretty terrible experience. Yeah. Okay. Well, here's the cool thing about being the second group is that we get to like improve our presentation a lot because we get to tell you about the stuff that the first group missed out on because that's a hack.
He's here for 2 seconds. He knows what we'll do differently this time, but
Yeah. Okay. So first off, what are bees? So first thing, it's very important to acknowledge that there's a lot of different types of bees. There's over 50,000 species of bees, and the majority of them are all native bees. They're all adapted to one specific region of the world, one specific climate. And these native bees they live in very small colonies. They live in the ground, maybe like 100 bees in a colony, and they aren't really what you think of when you think of a bee. So what you normally think of a bee are a honeybee. It's one of the main 7 bees that live in big colonies. And the primary one, the honeybee, is European honeybee, is Apis mellifera, and it's the one that you would commonly associate with the honeybee, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But it's very important to remember that there's a bunch of different species of bees, and these aren't the only bees that you should care for. So, as I mentioned, Apis mellifera, the European honeybee. So, inside of a honeybee hive, there's going to be 3 different main types of bees. So, does anyone know what they are?
There's a queen bee.
Yeah, there is a queen bee. That is one of them.
There's a drone bee.
There is a drone bee. Yes.
And a worker bee.
Yeah. So those are the 3 main types of bees inside of a hive. So the queen, I'm sure you guys know, is the queen. There's only one of them inside of the hive, and the queen has one job and one job only to lay eggs. All they do is reproduce, and the queen, as you'd expect from the queen, can sort of dictate the hive. So depending on how the queen's personality can influence the overall hive. So the queen will, the bees communicate using pheromones. So it's like a smell, and the queen, depending on what the queen's pheromones release, the bees will act differently. So if it's a really aggressive queen, the hive will be really aggressive. If it's a really passive queen, the hive will be passive. So generally, you really want a productive queen because your hive will be very productive. So the queen is in charge of regulating, controlling the entire colony. But at the same time, the worker bees have to control the queen. So the worker bees don't like how the queen acts. What they're going to do is they're just going to replace the queen, because if the queen is not useful, then why keep her? So if the queen is particularly passive or weak, the worker bees might just kill her and replace her with a brand new queen. So it's very ruthless, but that's just how the world works. And the queen, as you know, lived for quite a long time. Like they can live anywhere from 6 months all the way to like several years. So another type of bee are the worker bees, and these are the ones that you see all around us. So the worker bees are going to be, they do pretty much everything inside of the hive. So they will take care of the young. They will go out and pollinate. They're going to create the honey. They're going to take care of the young. Everything that the bees do, the worker bee basically does. And what they do I don't know how to pronounce the word. I still don't. And basically what it does is, depending on how old they are, they're going to do different things. So all the young all the younger ones who have a lot more energy, they're going to go out and explore. They're going to go out and pollinate. And all the old ones, they're all old. They're all grumpy. They have no energy. They will stay back. They're going to clean up the hive, take out the trash. They will basically stay and not fly out. So the worker bees pretty much do everything. And then the last type is going to be the drone bees. So the drone bees are the only male bees in the hive, and so all the other bees are all female. The drone bees, they're male, and they only have one purpose, and it's only to reproduce with other queens. So basically, these drone bees are basically useless, as the name suggests, they're drones. Okay, and they usually are a burden to the hive. So during the winter time, when their resources are low, they can't go really pollinate as much. What they're going to do is they're going to kick out all the drones from the hive, and they're going to die from natural causes. So basically, the males basically kind of useless, man, for the hives. So yeah, so here, once again, does anyone want to try to spot the
Not
Oh,
queen?
you.
Anyone you want to spot the queen? Go ahead, just go point.
It's right here. That's what I think. No, wait. What? Oh, wait, I don't know.
No,
Never mind.
wait. I think it's yeah.
Do you want to go up and point?
I forgot. It's that one. This one?
Yeah. So that is the queen, and the way you can tell is that she has a slightly longer body, and she has a big black spot on her back. And the way you can also, another thing, the way you can tell drones and worker bees apart is they're different sizes. They're slightly more plump, the drone bees. And the main thing is, where do the wings go up to? So in the drone bees, their wings will be, the wings will pass their body, and in the worker bees, they won't go past their abdomen. So that's the main way you can tell the difference.
Wait, fun fact. We had a bit of difficulty finding the queen bee here. So what some beekeepers will do is, you see this really big dot on the bee. Sometimes some beekeepers will just place a colored dot to kind of point it out and say, oh, okay, it just make finding the queen easier. And they actually change the color depending on which year the queen was born. So just to kind of check on how old the queen is. I think it's a 5-year cycle because queens usually don't live past 5 years.
So yeah. One new thing. This is something that only you guys get. I briefly mentioned that the queen, they will communicate with the hive, right? With their through these why is the word avoided? Pheromones, yes. I don't know what that word was avoiding me. So they communicate using pheromones, and it's basically a special type of smell. And some of these smells you can actually sense yourself. So if a bee stings you, what they're gonna do is so first off, you guys know that a bee, they can only sting you once, right? And the reason why this happens is because it's really brutal. The stinger is connected to other guts, and that's how they produce the venom. And then the stinger is barbed, so if you ever seen a thorn or something, it's barbed, it gets stuck in your skin. So when they try to escape, then their entire insides get ripped out of their body. It's very disgusting, and that's why they die. And so, anyway, so when a bee stings you, they're gonna release a certain type of pheromone that basically alerts all the bees around them that, oh, there's danger here. You guys should watch out. You guys should also sting. So this is particularly true, when we're trying to disturb a hive and steal their honey, and they try to sting you. They're gonna release a pheromone that basically tells them all to that there's danger. Everyone's sting whatever thing is here. And this smell actually smells like a really strong artificial banana smell. So it's really random, but if you are near a beehive and you smell bananas, I think you guys should run because they are very mad at you. So yeah, so they communicate with pheromones, and some of them you can't tell.
Basically, if you smell bananas, that means they're going bananas.
So okay, so
Wait, it's also kind of scary to think about venom. Like we all think of like venomous snakes bite dead, but bee venom usually isn't too bad unless you're allergic to it. Then things might get complicated, but generally it's fine.
So inside of a beehive, there's going to be several different frames. So there's going to be frames full of beeswax, and they're going to be on the normal hexagon cells you guys are familiar with. And inside of them, they're going to pack it with a bunch of different things. So they're going to pack it with either honey, or they can also put brood, which is all the larvae. That's where the baby bees come from. Or they can put it where like the queens come from. And one cool thing, this is like another new thing that only you guys get, is that the way that they will actually differentiate where they pack it is like very specific. So in the bottom, usually like if we have like several, it's a very tall thing, these several frames stacked up to each other. Usually the bottom, they're gonna put the larvae on the bottom part of it, and on the top part, it's going to only be honey. So that's something that you guys, it's like crazy that they are able to do this all themselves, are able to organize themselves. They like somehow naturally know to put only the larvae in the bottom and only the honey at the top. So it makes our job as beekeepers very easy because we only need to go to the top and all the honey is there.
Also, if you have just one layer of frames, normally the queen will try to lay eggs from the center out. So also very cool. If you want to find the queen, probably hit one of the center ones.
Also, something that differentiates the queen cells, as you can see, they're really big, they're really plump, these like sticking out. The way that they can turn brood into queen is just by the way that they feed these larvae. So when they hatch, if they are fed just honey and pollen, they're just going to turn into a normal worker bee. But if they're fed royal jelly, which is a specific thing that comes out of their, I get confused. It's either they like spit it out or they excrete it from part of a gland on their body. I forget which one, but basically they will produce royal jelly, and just by feeding them this royal jelly, they can turn a regular queen into a regular worker bee into a queen bee. You can see.
This royal jelly kind of like stimulates like the female part of the bee, and so like that's how they actually get a working reproductive system. And also royal jelly goes on the market for like a lot. So yeah.
It's a very time-consuming, very labor-intensive process because basically this is really useless fact, but how they farm royal jelly is they're going to create a queen cell, and then basically what they do is they're going to cut open the queen cell, and the worker bees are going to repeatedly like try to fill up the cell with royal jelly, and then someone will hand scoop out the royal jelly from this really tiny cell. It's like not even the size of my pinky finger, like this small bit of my pinky finger, that's about how big it is. That they like scoop it out of there, and that's how they get royal jelly. They have to like check it every day and scoop it from every single one, so it's very labor-intensive, very expensive process. Anyway, so bees use honey and pollen, and they use it for different things. So I alluded to this earlier, but can anyone guess what the difference is, or like what they might use them differently for? Does anyone know? So basically, honey is their normal food source, and they get it from the nectar of the bees. So what they would do is that the bees, they go fly, they go pollinate, they bring the nectar back, and then they're going to stuff it into the cells. And then it's this really liquidy thing. So what they're going to do is they're going to fan it with their wings, and they're going to evaporate the water until it's the correct consistency. And afterwards, they're just going to cap the cell for later. So that's how you can know if a cell is full of honey that's ready. It's going to be a capped cell. And then they also is going to be pollen, which is like how the flowers pollinate each other, right? So pollen turns out to be a very good source of protein for the bees. So honey, it's pretty much all sugar and water. So pollen, that's where they get the protein to build a lot of their like growth.
All right. Now I'm going to talk a bit about bees and the ecosystem and why they're so important. We've talked a lot about the stuff that bees can bees are actually super important to the environment and the ecosystem. And so the main thing to note is that bees can pollinate everything. They're a part of the food chain and they are essential to the ecosystem. Why is that? We're gonna play a game of some big numbers. So I'm gonna show some things on the board and then you guys are gonna guess what the big numbers are. So first, this one will be a fraction less than 1. How much of all food crops, specifically food, do you think that bees pollinate?
Maybe a percent. Like
Percent or fraction? Do you want to decide?
90%.
Sorry,
90%.
lower.
50%.
Lower.
30.
It's around 30. It's actually, they pollinate 1/3 of all food crops. Now, how much do you think specifically of all flowering crops? So this includes the flowers out there in the garden, any plants you see, everything that grows.
Maybe 70%.
Higher.
80%.
It's 80%. Bees actually pollinate 80% of all flowering crops, which is a crazy amount. Bees are actually super important to us. Okay. Now, how many dollars in produce per year do you think bees give us? Basically, if we were to pay bees for their contributions, how much would it be?
$1 billion.
Higher.
What?
$5 billion.
Higher.
A trillion?
Lower. Higher. It's actually around $30 billion. So it shows that bees just have a crazy amount of impact on the ecosystem. However, even though bees contribute $30 billion to the ecosystem, they're actually in a huge population decline. So our last number will be a bit more of a sobering one, which is the global honeybee population has declined by how much percent in a year?
70%.
Lower, thankfully.
20?
Higher.
Unfortunately.
50?
It's around 40. It's actually the global honeybee population declined by 40.7% from 2018 to 2019 alone.
Actually, I should say that this isn't just a one-year thing. This has been happening basically throughout the past decade. Every year, about like 2 in 5 hives are gone. So
Yeah. If you see here on this graph, you can see from 1946 to 2006, the millions of hives per year goes from around 6 million to only around 3 million. So that's around a cut in half. And that's only until 2006. In fact, in the last, and since the 2000s, it's declined by over half. And it's also lost 60% of the population from 1947 to 2008.
Yeah, why are they all being lost? Like, why are all the bees dying?
Yeah, so colony collapse disorder is a thing that's basically saying honeybee hives across the world are dying. So what do you think are some of the reasons for this?
Maybe like something like what's I forgot what it's called, the things that keep out bugs on like crops.
Pesticides. Yes, that's actually one of the very important reasons why honeybees are dying. Any other guesses?
Climate, like their habitats are being destroyed.
Yes, habitat loss is a super important one of the reasons, actually at the very end, so we won't move forward just yet. But climate change and pesticides, climate change and habitat loss are one of the reasons that are causing bees to die out. Anyone besides the person who's already seen it?
I could also mention the habitat loss also applies to like the food sources, right? So like if there's less plants, then less food.
Any other brave soul? Fine.
Pests.
Yes. Pests are another reason. There are some things such as varroa mites, which are basically these little red bugs that will go inside a colony and eat the bees from the inside out, basically. They're very bad. Want to take another guess?
I remember seeing a bunch of them crawling to the beehive, so we started squirting things along them.
Nice.
What do we say?
I remember I saw a beehive and then I saw a bunch of those like small red ants crawling towards it, and then my friend and I just started squirting them with the water.
Yeah, ants are a really big problem too. Like especially for normal hives, bees can kind of like scare off and like keep the ants at bay. But if you really have, especially a weak hive, that the ants just go in there, grab all the honey, and they're out. And so it's a pretty big problem.
And you already know the final reason. What is it?
It's viruses.
Yeah. So viruses also cause honeybees to die out, and finally there's climate change, which you mentioned earlier. Those are just some of the many reasons that contribute to colony collapse disorder. Scientists aren't exactly sure which of these specifically affects bees the most, but we know that all 4 of these affect them in some way or other. And that's where science comes in. So we see the problem of pesticides actually causes honeybee learning and memory to go down. And actually, I'll bring this up right now. So basically, when you go to the Harker Middle School, you can do this super cool thing called science research. And science research is where you can do a 1-year science project where you basically get to choose what you learn about in science all on your own. So at the end of 1 year of experiments, you'll basically make this board where you'll be able to summarize all of your results and talk about the work that you did. So the reason I brought this out is I wanted to showcase this diagram here. If you guys want to come closer, if we kind of have space for everyone to come up here. I wanted to showcase this diagram here, which shows what happens when honeybees lose their learning and memory. So a honeybee with a good learning and memory can forage for food and come back to their colony and bring food home. But in all of the other scenarios, something bad happens. So the bees might not be able to find flowers, they might get lost on the way home, they might visit flowers that have already been depleted, or they might find bad flowers. And so I sought to solve this problem, i.e. finding a solution to the problem, by seeing, oh, well, humans drink tea and coffee, we get super energized. What if that does the same thing for bees? And so essentially what I did is I tested if bees were able to have their learning and memory be improved. I'm gonna put this down for a sec so that we can see the slide again because you can use that. Yeah.
Consider pesticides kind of as like alcohol for bees. Like when they come into contact with pesticides, they get super drunk and then like.
So I just wanted to see if you see
I've seen that before.
if you see this diagram on the bottom right, you can see the bee is sticking out its tongue. Scientists call this its proboscis. And so essentially what my research tested was, I tested learning by saying, oh, if the bee sticks out its tongue for a certain stimulus, or for example, I basically give them sugar and see if they stick out their tongue, which means that they would be learning. And so I used that, so basically I would I would let the bees drink coffee, and then I would say, oh, if they can stick out their tongue to sugar, that means they've learned. And that would prove my hypothesis and find a solution to my problem. So research is really cool because you can use research like this to find solutions to everyday problems, such as the pesticide decline.
Wait. So Rory's kind of painted a kind of bleak future for bees, and so kind of in the spirit of Earth Day, I think it's useful to talk about like what we can do in order to help bee populations. So Rory's already told us about all the harmful effects that pesticides have. So I think it's pretty natural to say that we should all try to use as little pesticides as we can in our own homes where we're growing plants and whatnot. This is also a really big problem within like commercial farms, right? California is a really big agricultural powerhouse. What are some types of like crops that we produce here? Give some
Almonds.
almonds, yes, that's a big one. In the back.
Oranges.
Oranges? I don't know about a specific orange. Yes,
Yeah.
sure, in some depends. Yes.
Strawberry. Avocado.
Yes. Those are some big, yeah, Central Valley, big, strong.
So if you like almonds, avocados, strawberries, any of that thing, those are all because of bees.
Yeah, think that. Yeah, so they unfortunately, the farms unfortunately will often use a lot of pesticides on their plants, and so hopefully one day we can find some sort of friendlier solution or to removing all the pests from our plants.
Actually, one kind of hope for the future is that a lot of pesticides, such as, throw out a fancy word, neonicotinoids, is a type of pesticide that was shown to seriously affect bees. And I was going to do my research on that until I looked into it, and I found that many countries across the globe have actually already banned this pesticide. So it shows that we've already been taking some action into banning some of the most harmful pesticides. And we hope that that will continue to happen for other pesticides as we move forward.
Also, another thing is that another solution, it's not as optimal, but you can also do GMO bees. So people do have, and people do sell genetically modified bees who are more resistant to pesticides and stuff. So I'm not sure how much you want to support GMO bees, how much you want GMO bees, but they do exist out there, and it's a small thing that's
Another thing that you can do is just plant other small plants and shrubs that are like good for bees. Yes.
My mom is like a plant lover, and she planted a bunch of flowers, and then every single spring a bunch of bees just spawned from it.
So cool.
So yeah, that happens all the time. And I planted a new plant that and it said it attracted bees and hummingbirds.
Yeah, thank the bees and the hummingbirds too. Yeah, so you can also buy local honey right outside the door, not a shameless advertisement, no way. I guess another thing that you can do is that kind of relates to what's known as a bee swarm. So around the time of spring, actually like about a month back would be prime like swarming season. So what happens to colonies in the spring is that because the temperatures are warming and then they're like getting more active to go outside, they start to feel a bit cramped inside their hive. And so what they'll do is sometimes they'll split, and then the queen carries about half the bees and just goes off into the great unknown or something. And then the rest of the bees stay inside the hive. And that's kind of how the hive reproduces. But in like the first, I guess, maybe like a day or two after the hive is swarmed, then like the batch of bees that goes outside will kind of just gather around whatever they seem convenient, right? Maybe it's like some branch, maybe it's like somewhere around your roof. So a good thing would be to try not to like just exterminate them. Instead, get a beekeeper. I think there's like a list of qualified beekeepers who can help with swarm removal. One of them standing right back there. Get these hives kind of get these swarms kind of into new hives. Maybe you can keep it. That's how you got from one hive to two hives, by the way. Or you can also just give them out to other people and maybe have them start beekeeping. Who knows? And one final cool thing you can do is become a beekeeper. So yeah, I guess along with science, I guess I should also talk a bit about my research, which is more in the engineering side. And so here I'm trying to design kind of products that can help solve some problems within our society. And so one of the key problems right now that beekeepers face is that like sometimes when we're kind of taking out the frames out of our hives to do manual inspections, like we'll demonstrate a bit, but when we do that, it might be kind of time consuming and also really destructive to the hives. That's why they'll come and go steam you from. If you like leave a hive alone, probably it'll leave you alone. But if you try to like, get into there, they're gonna start viewing you kind of suspiciously. So those are some of the problems that manual beekeeping kind of faces. So I wanted to develop a system that can kind of help beekeepers not only like look at the hive remotely, but also kind of like check if there's anything wrong in terms of like the health. And so I used artificial intelligence, which is I think is really cool, in order to train some models that can detect like some signs of unhealthiness among bees using their images of the bees. So like beekeepers kind of obviously look at bees to kind of determine how they're doing. So I think the varroa mite, we've already mentioned that it like tends to eat up baby bees, but it can also like lodge itself in the wings and then also like spread some viruses that will cause wing deformities. So that's kind of one thing that we can look at when it comes to assessing bee health. There are also like some sound cues, right? So the queen actually makes this really cool sound called piping. So basically, this is kind of the queen's signal to the hive that like indicates her presence. And so it's a really distinctive, like high-pitched tone. And so if we hear it, we can probably expect that there is a queen within the hive, even without being able to directly see her. And so that's extremely useful. And so I was able to use artificial intelligence to kind of devise a system that's able to recognize both audio and visual features. And eventually, I also devised like some hardware that will kind of live stream the entrance of a hive. So yeah, that's what I did. I think it's pretty cool. Yes, let's do this. Let me just go demonstrate with pass around the frames. Right. Sure. Right. So naturally, if you're gonna go open up a hive and kind of irk the bees, then it's a good idea to get some protection. And so
Wax.
beekeepers will wear bee suits. You have the distinctive kind of like cap and kind of like the net that kind of protects your face. Mine only gowns down to my waistline. There's some that are like full body. I also have gloves here just so I won't get stung in the hand if there were some real bees in there.
It's sticky.
So basically, once I'm like this, I'm all dripped out, so I can go to the hive. And so kind of as I was talking about, normally we just go and lift out some frames, kind of see what's on each side.
So you can see here, the frame itself, as you can see if you're passing around the frame as well, the frame itself has a base of hexagons for the bees to build off of, and then you can see on this on this frame, the bees have been building up wax on these cells, so this here, and then if you look on that frame over there, you'll see some wax and some pollen as well in the filled cells.
Yeah, like the small crusty things, they're sometimes the bees will kind of like tend to glue the frames together if they're left long enough. Okay, sure.
You guys want to look another example of the frame? This one you can see is more like raised texture here where they've been building them up.
Sometimes you'll have frames like this will denote the top, so it's the top. Sometimes you'll have like honey, just a frame entirely full of honey. Sometimes, and when the queen comes, they'll kind of like make way for the babies, which they call brood, and then will kind of just spread from the center out.
You said they seal it on top. So are these ones all sealed or?
No, those are
They
the
build it up first, and then when the queen like lays an egg in there.
Put it
So
in
you'll
here
say,
and then
so you'll say that once this thing gets like higher than this.
Yes, if there's a baby inside. Yeah, sometimes when there's honey.
So this there's a hole of, oh my god. What did they grab?
Any questions about what you're seeing?
The bottom is a frame, so you would buy that.
They're both
And then
this yellow is just younger. This is it becomes white and then it darkens over.
Wait, what are like those like
The white seeds? Not so much. Right.
I do not know. It's probably just like
Might be some different color.
all
Yeah.
What
Flowers.
It looks like a dead baby.
There might be, I think, I think this could be brood. So they like seal it. We were kind of talking about how they seal it up. Yeah.
There's a lot of dead people. Or whatever that. Or maybe they're not dead. It looks dead. Oh, that's a live bee?
It's not
It's not
it's
alive.
alive.
Not a bee. Legs are like, yeah, it's just one right there. It was probably like an and one right here. And there's one right there. And here. Are those like
yeah. So what they will do is they will produce
Are these
and then they're
are
gonna
these
fighting. So they basically
yeah, they could be the ones that are
Yeah, so
Yeah,
they're
like
basically
they're
one of
sitting
the
on the top.
giving their womb to cell us.
So their eggs inside.
I think so, though I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure this is
Oh,
So are the eggs nowadays
they can for any organ.
Wait, so they're
Well, I'm glad they're excited. Well, don't worry, my mom was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
might be, I'm not sure.
We have a lot of honey leftover.
I think you were getting picked up on
or maybe they never did.
But it might have just been like a manual.
Yeah. There is, if you go
I know, but I'm saying it's usually came out and so.
purpose it is
If your parents are coming at 5:30, you need to little ones
They call them populous. We can like stick this in between to kind of just nestle them out on each side gently, and then like the bees produce a special thing called propolis that can like it's a glue. It kind of keeps the hive from like falling apart sometimes. So like you put them, you use your hand to take them out from both edges because there's probably going to be either bees or some other like comb or whatever on here. Take them out. You can like look on either side, and then yeah. Also, if there's like an aggressive hive, then if there's an aggressive
Bye, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
if there's an aggressive hive, then we might use this smoker. So basically, we put like flammable materials and like light a fire inside, and then so when like squirt this, we can get some smoke to go out. And what the smoke does is two things. One, it kind of like disturbs the bees' kind of communications, and so they can't communicate like with their pheromones as effectively. Second, this is also kind of like a simulated fire, so it triggers an instinct inside of them built over like probably thousands of years of evolution. So when they detect smoke, they tend to think, okay, it's time to move, time to get as much food as they can. And so they're going to be focused less about stinging you than trying to keep their hive alive. And so, yeah, eventually they'll just kind of calm down, and then this smoke isn't enough to like cause major permanent damage. So, yeah.
So the difference between the aggressive hives and regular hives is just the bees will try to sting you more?
Yeah, so like, yeah. In my early days, I actually just didn't think it was really necessary to use these gloves, and so I was just doing this once, and then I caught a bee with my hand, and it just went right into like my left index finger. It hurt for like a week, and then, yeah, that convinced me to use gloves, and so, yeah.
Okay, we need to wrap up because they got to use the loading zone. But thank you. What do you say?
Thank